welcome back to my channel. It's Brandy, and it is time for another episode of Horror Media Monthly. We are going to be covering the month of December 2024. This is all of the horror or horror-adjacent content that I consumed in this month, and obviously December was Christmas time, so we've got some Christmassy stuff on this list that I'm going to get into, but there's actually a lot of new movies and games and stuff that I got to. So we've got a jam-packed month. But before we get into it, fellow reminder, I do put up new videos here every single day at 4 p.m. Eastern. So hit that subscribe button if you want more content. And I do stream over on Twitch Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. All of the games that you will see me covering are games that I did live stream over there initially, and they are all uploaded to my second gaming channel if you want to check out the full playthroughs as well. But without further ado, we're going to get into what I covered this month. Starting off strong, I checked out a new movie that just dropped this past month on Netflix, and that was the movie Subservience. When his wife becomes sick, a struggling father buys a lifelike AI android named Alice to help with the housework. Things seem fine until Alice suddenly becomes self-aware and wants everything its new family has to offer, including the affection of its owner. Now, this movie stars Megan Fox, and it is another movie that we're getting where AI is the villain. And in this one, it's specifically is a physical being. It's not just kind of like how we saw last month when I checked out Afraid, how it was more of like an Alexa-like type device that was controlling everything. Megan Fox is literally Megan Fox in this movie. She is this AI robot that this guy hires, and it had some scary moments, but I feel like it was a little bit more suspenseful, and because I've seen enough movies of this sort, I kind of guessed what I thought was going to happen, and it's pretty self-explanatory with it. But I did actually like it. There were some twists in how they told the story that I thought was interesting, and it didn't exactly go as I predicted. So I did like that it was somewhat unique in that sense, but definitely worth it if you haven't checked it out. I did quite like this one. Then coming up next, another movie I saw on Netflix, and that is the movie Viral. This actually came out in 2016. I had missed it, and I'm not sure how I missed it because it follows suit with a lot of other movies that I've seen that I really like, but it definitely has a 2016 vibe because the premise of this is about like a sickness that starts taking over people. So Viral is about a virus that breaks out, causing the infected to lose their faculties and attack the healthy. In a small American town, two sisters try to survive on their own when their parents are locked outside the quarantine zone. The film starts off really well with these two strong female leads trying to figure everything out as the world is essentially coming to a close. I personally really like this. I like the two sisters. I like their dynamic. I liked the different personalities of each of them. And when things inevitably did start going downhill, that how they kind of worked together with things. The thing that I think I like the most about this is what the virus itself is, which I don't want to necessarily go into it to not spoil it, but it is this like worm bacteria that gets into your body, and it was crazy. I really liked it. It was more than just like you get sick and you die, so that added so much more of a thriller aspect to it. But this one was actually really good, and I'm surprised it wasn't on my radar when it came out and it fell to the wayside. So definitely recommend this. Next up is another new movie that just dropped on Netflix this past month, and that is the movie Carry On. If you somehow have not seen anything about this going around the internet, I think you live under a rock, because this was like in the top 10 movies for the entirety of the month, and I think it probably still is. Carry On is about a young airline security guard who is getting blackmailed by a mysterious passenger who threatens to smuggle a dangerous package onto a plane on Christmas Eve. This has Jason Bateman in it, which I absolutely love him, and he is actually the bad guy in this movie. Now, this is more of like a thriller than necessarily a straight horror movie, but you are on the edge of your seat the whole time because from the first, 15 minutes, you're already getting tidbits of what is about to go down. This movie takes so many different directions that I was not anticipating. This was a sleeper hit for me because when I first read the description, I was like, could be cool. Jason Bateman being on the cover is what sold it for me. This one was a knock out of the park. I actually really enjoyed this movie. And I headed to the theaters a couple of times in December, and I actually saw a movie that I had no idea was even out because my dad was looking through movies and randomly found this one, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And that is The Man in the White Van. I had heard nothing about this movie, but honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. The Man in the White Van is about a man in the 1970s in Florida who is the driver of a white van, and he follows a young girl seemingly everywhere she goes. As the menace escalates, her parents dismiss her fears, leading to a terrifying Halloween night that shatters her world. This movie follows a real-life serial killer that existed in the 70s who was specifically targeting young teenage females and had somehow gone under the radar for several years before he was caught. But the thing that I like most about this movie, it is from the perspective of the girl who is being stalked by this guy. And you do not see the bad guy. You do not see his face. He is not some, like, you're waiting for the reveal the whole movie. They do it specifically from her perspective, and they give her the stage. It's not about whoever the killer is. It is about the victim and from the victim's point of view. And we don't typically get that in a lot of movies. So this one really took me off guard with that in a different and more unique way of storytelling about real-life serial killers and things like that. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm surprised it didn't get more press or more people talking about it because I thought it was really good. And lastly, this month, I also went to go see NOSFERATU, which honestly, the one movie that you think would be the most horror-filled of everything on my list this month, and this movie was not. Let's be honest with ourselves. There was horror elements in this movie, but this was a different kind of movie. This was a freaky movie, and not in the freaky, scary sort of way. NOSFERATU is about a 1980s estate agent named Thomas Hutter who travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok, a prospective client. In his absence, Hutter's new bride, Ellen, is left under the care of her friends, Frederick and Anna Harding. Plagued by horrific visions and an increasing sense of dread, Ellen soon encounters an evil force that is far beyond her control. I had very high hopes for this movie, and it was not what I expected. Now, I want to explain, though, because a lot of people keep asking me, was it good? Was it bad? Is it a bad movie because it was kind of weird? No. I thought this was a really good movie, to be completely honest. I think the movie was done well. The actors did a great job. The sets and the scenery, absolutely gorgeous. On paper, this movie is great. But do not go in thinking this is going to be some super scary horror movie. Maybe the first 30 minutes feels like the lead into a super scary horror movie, and then it takes a much different direction. There's obviously tons of horror elements throughout this, but it did not go the direction I was thinking, and I was very surprised. And ironically, I saw this with my husband, and then I was going to go see it again with my dad, and I had to text my dad, and I said, I don't want to see this movie with you, Dad. And he's like, is it that bad? I was like, no, it's not bad. It's a little freaky. So, needless to say, I did not go see it with my dad. Then before we get into the games, I did want to give an honorable mention to TV shows. I want to give an honorable mention to Squid Game Season 2. I was asking my community if they deem Squid Game to be horror. I wouldn't say it's horror. I feel like it's like a thriller ish, so it's like horror adjacent. But Squid Game Season 2 did drop this past month, and I binged it in a day and a half. It was delightful. Squid Game is a dystopian survival thriller about a secret contest where 456 players, all who are in deep financial hardship, are gathered up to play this game that is a bunch of different like childhood type games, and they are fighting for their lives to win this prize pool that they can go home with. I don't want to go too into it because you haven't seen the first season. I would spoil it for the second season, and this is so good that I recommend everyone go check it out. But season 2 was, and I'm already ready for season 3, so. Then going on to the games that I played this past month, I started off with A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead, which is the video game that is drawn from the realm or franchise. The story within this game is a unique story, but it isn't still the same universe as the movie franchise. It is a single-player game with gameplay that focuses on stealth and survival horror. The player controls a character from a first-person perspective and must navigate a post-apocalyptic world inhabited by blind, hostile hostile extraterrestrial creatures. In this game, it had voice activation, so as I streamed it, I had to be incredibly quiet or I would alert the monsters and they would instantaneously come and kill my character. So it added a much different twist to the streaming element. I personally really enjoyed it. The story itself was interesting, and then the added aspect of having to be extra quiet when playing it made it so much more suspenseful, and you were on the edge of your chair like, oh my god, like, is it gonna just instantaneously kill me, or was I quiet enough? So that added so much more fun to it. I really like this. I do hope that they do more games of this nature, because they can honestly come up with more games within this world of just different stories to different people. And next up, I played more Chilla's Arts games. I've been a bit of a kick of them lately. My community loves them. I love them. They're great. And we delved into Chilla's Arts, the radio station. This was a very small one, probably only about an hour playthrough, but it packed a punch quick. Radio station is about a man by the name of Masaki Onikawa who works at a local radio station who has unexpectedly died one day. His brother Haro is in so much distraught that he can't help but find the justice and investigate why his brother died all of a sudden, despite having a promising career as a radio show host. So you kind of explore the radio station, you explore the neighboring buildings, and you're trying to find clues as to what happened. And the story just gets more and more twisted. This one had a lot of jump scares, a lot of like really spooky environments that you did not want to walk into. I personally really liked this one. This was a plus for me. Then in true Christmassy fashion, we did actually play a Christmas horror game this month called Crimson Snow. This actually came out a few years ago, but I had it on my list because I wanted to make sure to play it during December this year, and it did not disappoint. Crimson Snow is about a man who during Christmas time, things are supposed to be joyous and you're supposed to be decorating and having fun with your loved ones, but things are lurking in the dark. Your actions determine whether you and your girlfriend survive this Christmas night as you think that you are walking over to your girlfriend's house and find yourself in a living hell. I didn't know what to expect with this game, and it continuously took more and more twists, but honestly, the thing that I really liked was there was an underlying story in everything that you did that slowly got revealed to you as you progress through the game, and I honestly loved that. I loved the story that we got and how everything kind of went together. There were a little bit of parts where I was like, okay, this doesn't totally make sense, but the overarching story of it I felt was really cool. And I had never played like a Christmas horror game before, so I really liked that element, and it was perfect for the season. Next up, we played another Chilla's Arts game. This time we did Chilla's Arts Night Delivery. This was terrifying, okay? You are a delivery man who is making these deliveries to this apartment complex, and the weirdest mother fudgers live in this apartment complex. I shit you not. It was so incredibly strange. You had to deliver the packages in like a certain order, and everybody that lived in this area were the weirdest people for whatever reason. You did get to explore the surrounding complex and find clues and connections between some of the inhabitants that lived there, and it was just super creepy. There was a couple weird moments, like at one point I have to chase a naked baby down a hallway. That was the time, but besides that, this game was really good, and it was absolutely terrifying. And then last but not least, I checked out a new game that actually just came out this past month called The Cabin Factory, and it was kind of like a play on a Spot the Difference. If any of y'all had watched when I talked about Shinkansen Zero on this channel, which is another Chilla's Arts game, this feels similar to that, where you're trying to spot the anomalies and determine if there is an anomaly or if there is not. In this particular game, you are trying to spot if a cabin is haunted or safe. Why? Who knows? But you have to enter each of these cabins and look for movement within the cabin. And you have the option of either you see something, you sprint out, you're good, everything is fine, you say that the cabin's good, or sometimes things just like kill you the second you get in there. Or you have to run and hide from something and then be like, yeah, that cabin's haunted. But either way, this game was really cool. There was a lot of different variations. I don't even know if I saw all of the variations. Definitely has replayability to it. And for a game that was like, I think like $2.99, $3, something like that, It's definitely worth it because it was fun to do. It was fun to play with my community. They do have a live chat integration with it for Twitch, so that's really fun as well. Definitely recommend that. And last but not least, I have my physical media of the month. I didn't get a whole lot this month, but I did get a few things. Starting off, I did get Hereditary in Blu-ray. Now, I'll be honest, I don't love this movie. I think this movie is kind of overhyped. I don't think it's nearly as scary and messed up as people make it seem in comparison to other movies I've seen. But the fact that it was on Blu-ray and for $1, I was like, I would definitely like that for my collection. So, snagged that one. Then we've got The Grudge. This movie is 10 times scarier than Hereditary, in my opinion. Such a classic with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I love the first one. I even like the second one, and if I can find a copy of that, I'll definitely get it. Also, I really need Goodwill to stop putting the stickers on the front of books and movies, because it makes it so hard to get them off. Another good one for the collection. And then I actually got a movie I've never seen, which is The Curse of La Llorona. I've heard of this movie, but I've never actually gotten around to watching it. So definitely interested to check this out. If any of y'all have seen it, what are your thoughts on this one? And then last up for movies, look what I found! A 2-pack Krampus collection. We've got Krampus the Return and Granny Krampus. What is this? This looks like the most ridiculous 2-pack movie set I've ever seen in my life, and I could not pass it up. I have to watch these. I haven't made time to actually watch them yet. So I'm going to either watch them before Russian Christmas on the 7th, or we're just going to have to save this for next year. Who knows? And then in terms of books, I got this book, The Twisted Ones. It's a Five Nights at Freddy's book. This is actually the sequel. I was trying to find the first book that they had, but it was not there. So somebody just donated the second book. But this was too cool to pass up. So I'm definitely going to look to see if I can find the first one somewhere. And then I got this other book called Behind Closed Doors. This one is about, everyone knows a couple like Jack and Grace, the looks, the wealth, the charm, the elegance. He's a dedicated attorney who never lost a case. She's a flawless homemaker and masterful gardener and cook, and dotes on her disabled younger sister. Though they are still newlyweds, they seem to have it all. It's difficult, though, because you do realize that these two are inseparable. Some might call this true love. Others might wonder why Grace never answers the phone, or why she never can meet for coffee. She doesn't work. She doesn't leave the house. How can she cook such elaborate meals but remain so slim? Or why does it seem that she never takes anything with her when she leaves the house, not even a pen? Or why is there such high security shutters on the downstairs windows? Some might wonder what's really going on once the dinner party is over and the front door has closed. I just thought this seemed like kind of potentially like the husband like kidnapped the wife, and it's like a Stockholm Syndrome type of thing. But this seemed really cool, so I was glad to snag this. And specifically in terms of books, a big goal of mine for this year is to finish at least one book a month. I know for like the book readers out there, that's like easy doings, but as someone who hasn't really read that much in the past few years, I want to get back into like being more consistent with it. So I thrift so many more books than I ever have time to read, but we're gonna try to make a point of reading more. So if you are also interested in reading more and things like that, drop some books below as suggestions, as either thriller, horror adjacent. I would love to know what your suggestions are. And I'll drop a couple of my suggestions of other ones that I finished so far down below too. But I think that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you like this wrap up. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. And if you want more horror content, let me know. I am debating making some kind of spin-off series as we go into this new year, and maybe doing some like TikToks, so it's like more fast-paced of just like boom, boom, boom. Here's a list of things as well for those that want to consume the content in a quicker format. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next episode. So until then, bye!